Next thing we're going to talk about is special right triangles. There's two special right triangles that you have to have memorized. The first one is 45, 45, 90. The sides will always be in the same ratio for every 45, 45, 90 triangle. So across from the 45 is 1, across from the other 45 is 1, across from the 90 is root 2. So you have to have this memorized, be able to draw this picture on your own. So if I wanted you to find sine of 45, or in radians, sine of pi over 4, that would be opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite of 45 is 1. Hypotenuse is root 2. But you can't leave a radical in your denominator. You're going to have to rationalize that denominator to get root 2 over 2. So sine of 45 is root 2 over 2. That's something you should probably memorize. Cosine of 45 would be adjacent over hypotenuse, which is, again, 1 over root 2, rationalize to get root 2 over 2. And then tangent of 45 would be opposite over adjacent, 1 over 1, which is just 1. The next special right triangle is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Across from the 30 is 1, across from the 60 is root 3, and across from the 90 is 2. For every 30, 60, 90 triangle, it's going to fall, the sides will fall in that ratio. So you have to have this picture memorized. You have to be able to draw this by yourself. So if I wanted you to find sine of 30 degrees, or sine of pi over 6, which is in radians, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite of 30 is 1. The hypotenuse is 2. What about sine of 60? Opposite of 60 is root 3. Over hypotenuse is 2. Root 3 over 2. Cosine of 30 would be opposite over, adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent to 30 is root 3. Hypotenuse is 2. And cosine of 60 degrees, adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent is 1, hypotenuse is 2. And finally, tangent of 30 would be opposite over adjacent, 1 over root 3, but you can't leave a radical in your denominator, so you're going to have to rationalize it. Give you root 3 over 3. And then finally, tangent of 60 would be opposite over adjacent, which would be root 3 over 1, which is just root 3. All right, you might have learned this in your other classes, but there's a little trick to remember which trig functions are positive in which quadrant. And the little acronym is all students take calculus. So it goes counterclockwise, starting in the first quadrant. All students take calculus. And what it stands for is, in the first quadrant, all 3 trig functions are positive, sine, cosine, and tangent. In the second quadrant, only sine is positive. Cosine and tangent are negative. In the third quadrant, tangent is positive, but sine and cosine are negative. And in the fourth quadrant, cosine is positive, but sine and tangent are negative. Okay, what if I wanted you to find the value of sine of pi over 3? First, you want to convert pi over 3 from radians into degrees. Pi over 3 is 60 degrees. And you're going to go graph this in a coordinate grid. So you want to think, which quadrant is 60 degrees in? If you think of this as 0 over here, up here is 90, 180, 270. 60 degrees is going to be in the first quadrant. So here's 60 degrees. Then I'm going to draw a right triangle. So this will make this angle 30 degrees. And that is a special right triangle. So I can go label my sides according to my special right 30, 60, 90 ratios. Across from the 30 is 1, across from the 60 is root 3, and across from 90 is 2. So now when I'm looking for sine of pi over 3, sine of 60 degrees, that's opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite of 60 is root 3. Hypotenuse is 2. So my answer is root 3 over 2. All right, next example is cosine of 2 pi over 3. 2 pi over 3 is 120 degrees. So it will be in the second quadrant. So this is 120 degrees. And all the way across is 180 degrees. This would be 60. So now we can draw right triangle. This is 30. Across from the 30 is 1. Across from 60 is root 3. Across from 90 is 2. Except we are now on the left side of our y-axis. So all of these x values over here are negative. So this is actually -1. And this makes sense because cosine is negative in the second quadrant. So we have our right triangle created. Now we're trying to find cosine of 2 pi over 3. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, -1 over 2. All right, so here is an interesting example where your angle is negative. So when we are going to set up our triangle on our coordinate grid, when it's negative, you're not going to go counterclockwise, you're going to start at 0 and go clockwise. So if we're going negative 7 pi over 6 degrees, that would mean that we're going negative 210 degrees. So here's 180, or 6 pi over 6, and then we have 1 pi left over. 1 pi over 6 left over, so aka 30 degrees left over. So to clarify, this is negative 210 degrees. To get halfway, that would be 180 degrees. So then we have 30 degrees left to go. And so that would put us in the second quadrant. This is 1, this is negative root 3, and this is 2. So if you wanted to find cosecant of this angle, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, so it's hypotenuse over opposite, which would be 2 over 1, which is 2.